Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 2026 Trademark Agent Skills Examination Candidate Orientation Session. My name is Jen Slobodkin, and I am joined today by my colleague Tifan Camus. Tifan will introduce herself and explain the interpretation option to listen in French.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tifan Camus. Bonjour à tous, je suis Tifan Camus. Pour la version française de notre présentation, de notre webinaire, vous pouvez accéder en cliquant en bas de votre écran sur le bouton Interprétation. Vous aurez ainsi accès à la version française de ce webinaire. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Tifan.
So let's have a look at the agenda. So you might be familiar with it already since it's pretty much the same as for the knowledge exam webinar. So we'll discuss about the dates, the test specifications, the platform, the candidate agreement, the candidate instructions, results and scoring process, and finally the FAQ questions and contact. If you have any questions during the presentation, you may type them, but we will answer them at the end of the webinar. Just as a reminder, so the exam dates are September 9th, 2026 from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I would like to remind you that this is definitely Eastern Time. So for those candidates who are not in the Eastern Time zone, please make sure that you are aware of this. And also the exam will also take place for the component B the day after, same time, 1 p.m., 5 p.m.
Thanks very much, Tifan. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the test specifications that were used to develop the skills examination. CPATA develops each exam using a set of test specifications, which are approved by the registration committee to ensure the exams test defensively. The test specifications, which you can find on our website, outline what an exam will measure in terms of content domain, which are areas and weights, as well as guidelines on how the content is to be measured. Such guidelines are expressed in terms of structure, so the test specifications provide information about format, length, and cognitive level, and context, which are the circumstances in which examination questions are framed and that can influence their interpretation. The content weights for the qualifying exams were set by a group of practicing agents with guidance from a psychometrician. These weights were informed by average, criticality, and importance ratings from the large-scale competency validation survey administered in September of 2022. The recommended content weights were then approved by the registration committee. The trademark agent skills examination is completed over 2 days. Each day tests a different component. Component A covers registrability and strategy. This is the component being written on September 9th. Component B covers prosecution, opposition, and Section 45 proceedings, and this is the component being written the following day on September 10th. The two components are scored together as a single examination. The examination uses a limited open book format with electronic access through the exam platform to the Trademarks Act and the Trademarks Regulations. Additionally, for Component B, the NICE classification is also available. Candidates are able to access these materials as secure electronic aids through the exam platform. This helps ensure that everyone has access to identical resources, reduces the risk of unauthorized materials, and helps to preserve the integrity of the exam. We have uploaded an instructional video on our website for how to access the examination aids, and this is something that you will do during the live proctor check-in next week. The examination is administered using a computer-based platform supported by Paradigm Testing. The exam will be remotely proctored using live proctors from Monitor EDU. French-speaking proctors are available upon request. Please contact the registration department at CPATA as soon as possible to arrange for a French-speaking proctor, either for the live proctor check-in and or for the exam, if you wish to have one.
Thank you, Jen. Before I start with that slide, someone just mentioned there is an echo. Is there only like one person, or can someone please confirm there is no echo, please? That'll be very helpful. So carry on. Here are the requirements for taking the exam. The specific technical requirements are available in the instructions and protocol guide, which is published on our website. In order to complete the exams, you will need the following: a laptop or desktop computer, the most recent version of the secure browser. Please note that there are French directions located at the bottom. Please scroll to access them if needed. A mobile phone running at least Android OS 6.0 or Apple iOS 12.0 with a functioning camera and microphone. Google Meet app downloaded to your mobile device. A steady and reliable internet connection. Wi-Fi will be required for mobile streaming with the minimum upload speed of 1 megabytes per second. A 6-foot extension cord and phone cord, a phone stand, or something to prop the mobile phone on. Government-issued ID, candidate ID, which will be provided on your confirmation of exam registration issued by CPATA that has not been sent yet, and a quiet venue. You must be alone in the room. Okay, no echo. Thank you very much for those who confirmed there is no echo. Here are some tips for setting up your room. There is a video linked in the setup guide. Please keep these things in mind when setting up your testing environment. There should be adequate lighting. Walls should be blank. Your table or desk should be clear, other than your laptop computer. The areas beneath the desk and chair should be clear. The computer and mobile phone should be plugged in for the duration of the exam. You should have within reach a 6-foot extension cord and use it, if requested by the proctor, to move the computer and mobile phone. You should inform other individuals that may share space with you about your exam date and time, and confirm that they will remain quiet during the exam and will not enter the exam room. You must be alone in the exam room for the duration of the exam. No one can enter the exam room during the exam. And finally, non-required electronics and any security or recording devices in the room must be turned off and put away in a safe place so that you will not be able to reach them.
Thank you, Tifan. I'm just going to go off script really quickly as an additional point to keep in mind when you're setting up your room, as we had a situation that has occurred during a previous administration that I want to make sure is avoided during any future administrations. And that is sometimes candidates write their exam in their workspace. And some workspaces, they might be alone in their own room, but the workspaces are only divided by glass panes. So there's windows on different sides of the room. And we want to make sure that the exam remains secure. And so if you're going to be writing in one of those types of spaces, then you'll need to either draw the blinds if you have blinds or curtains in that room so that nobody else can see into the room. Or you have to put some kind of paper or covering up so that no one can see into the exam room while you're in there. That was the only other point that I wanted to draw your attention to.
Thank you. Connecting with a proctor to test the exam platform is now a mandatory requirement. This is true even if you have previously tested before. The live proctor checking instructions are provided in the instructions and protocol guide. If you do not participate in this process, any request to nullify an examination attempt for technology-related reasons may not be approved. Proctors are available 24/7. You will be able to test your computer system and ensure everything works properly before the exams are written the following week. This is not a full mock practice exam. You will only be presented with the published practice exam questions again to give candidates more familiarity with the platform and what to expect on exam days. The instructions for connecting with a proctor for the checking are published on our website. Please note for the French-speaking candidates, you will need to let us know the time and date for your live proctor checking. The live proctor checking is a mandatory step. It must be completed before exam day. Its purpose is to verify that your exam environment, equipment, and technical setup meet all requirements. During the check-in, you will become familiar with the exam platform and proctoring process, which helps you know what to expect on exam day. Completing the check-in in advance can reduce stress and help avoid last-minute technical or setup issues that could delay or disrupt your exam. Please allow a minimum of 15 minutes for the check-in session to ensure optimal preparation and a smooth exam experience.
Thanks, Tifan. I'm just going to quickly go through the candidate agreement. The candidate agreement has always been part of the examination platform, but we really just wanted to highlight different parts of the candidate agreement so that you are aware ahead of time of what accepting this agreement actually means. So the candidate agreement is an agreement between the candidate and CPATA that must be accepted before the candidate may write an online qualifying examination. By accepting, the candidate confirms their identity and agrees to follow all examination rules, instructions, and security requirements. CPATA emphasizes that examination content and related non-public information are confidential and protected, and that strict security measures are in place to preserve the fairness and integrity of the examination process. Candidates must not engage in dishonesty, fraud, cheating, misrepresentation, impersonation, copying, unauthorized communication, or any attempt to access, share, reproduce, remember, retain, alter, or distribute examination content. Exam content includes questions, topics, scenarios, answers, fact patterns, and related information, even if recalled inaccurately. Candidates must also follow CPATA and proctor instructions, avoid unauthorized devices or internet access, use only permitted materials, and report any known breach of exam obligations. Candidates must understand that CPATA may investigate suspected misconduct and may take regulatory or disciplinary action where conduct threatens the examination integrity. Candidates also agree that their exam session is monitored in real time through webcam and second camera video streams and may be audio and video recorded. Actually, they are audio and video recorded. CPATA may use recordings for reasonable purposes, including exam security, investigations, and assessments of integrity, honesty, good character, and suitability for registration. CPATA shares necessary candidate information with its proctoring provider, Monitor EDU, and exam software provider, Paradigm Testing. This may include the candidate's name, email address, candidate ID number, the exam name, any accommodation information, not the details of why an accommodation is being provided, but the actual accommodation instructions, like an additional amount of time or timed rest breaks, etc. Exam completion details and information about any alleged misconduct. Candidates acknowledge that all exam materials are CPATA's exclusive property. The live proctor check-in is important, and it's scheduled for August 31st to September 4th. You'll receive an email from Monitor EDU on August 28th, I believe it is. You'll receive it on August 28th with further instructions to do the check-in. And during the check-in, it's important that you test connecting with a proctor, launching the secure browser, typing into response boxes, editing responses, moving between questions, bookmarking questions, changing the font size, using the highlight and strike through functionality, and using the exam aids. For the candidate instructions for preparation for the exam days, you will need to make sure that you test your equipment ahead of time during the live proctor check-in. Make sure that you have a government-issued ID with you for your check-in and for the exam date, and that has to be a photo ID, and your candidate ID number. This is a unique number that's provided to each candidate for the specific exam administration. It's not your CPATA ID. And you will receive your candidate number on Friday, August 21st, when we send out the confirmations of registration.
Thank you, Jen. So we'll discuss now the instructions for the exam day. Step 1. This step is very important. If you do not connect with a proctor, you will not be able to access the exam. you must connect with the proctor first. This is the same process that candidates follow to connect to a proctor before the knowledge exams earlier this year. The proctor will go through the registration process, check your ID, do the room, security and system check, and provide you with the login information, which is exam link and login credentials. It is important that you connect with a proctor before the exam start time at 1 p.m. Proctors are often assisting more than one candidate log in to the exam. So to help ensure everyone starts on time, it is helpful to connect starting around noon and no later than 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. All of these instructions are provided in the instructions and protocol guide on our website. During the exam, you may not access the following types of personal items: mobile phones, headphones or headsets, wired or Bluetooth, handheld computers or other electronic devices, watches, wallets, purses, bags or coats, books, notes, or any other materials. Also, you may not wear hats or other head coverings unless they are worn as a religious observance. The only mobile phone that you're allowed to have with you is the one that you are using for proctoring. You cannot have access to any other mobile phones or other electronic devices. Please note that you cannot bring any pre-printed materials with you to the exam. This includes copies of the Act and regulations. As previously mentioned, candidates are able to access this material as secure, but searchable electronic aids through the exam platform. This helps ensure that everyone has access to identical resources, reduces the risk of unauthorized materials, and helps to preserve the integrity of the exam.
Thanks, Stefan. So on exam day, there's a couple of other things to keep in mind. One is incident reports. Monitor EDU uses Google Meet to support their proctoring services. This allows exam sessions to be recorded. The recordings will be saved with Monitor EDU for a finite period of time. Therefore, if something occurs during your exam that you think we should be aware of, you can send a request to schedule@monitoredu.com with your name, candidate number, and the date of the exam when the incident occurred to request that they share the exam recording with CPATA for further investigation. These requests must be submitted to Monitor EDU prior to the release of the exam results. Please see the candidate guide on our website for these details. Snacks and water. You may have a drink with you, but it must be in a clear vessel, such as a clear bottle, a cup, or a glass, with no labels on it. If you do have a bottle with a label, you must remove the label. You may also have snacks with you, but they must be in clear Ziploc style bags or clear Tupperware type containers so that the proctor can see what is in the bag or the container. Also, please tell the proctor at the beginning when you are checking in for the exam that you would like to have snacks during the exam so that they are aware. You will receive an email confirmation from Monitor EDU the Friday before the exams that will provide you with the protocol for the exam days and some system setup information that you already have access to because you've gone through the live proctor check-in and you've reviewed the instructions and protocol information on the website. Earplugs. If you wish to wear earplugs during the exam, they will need to be new foam ones that are still in the package. Candidates must open them up in front of the proctor. Candidates must advise CPATA if they wish to use earplugs prior to the start of the exam so that proctors can be informed. Jewelry. To support the integrity and security of the exam process, you'll be asked to remove any jewelry before the exam, such as earrings, necklaces, bracelets, etc. Scrap paper. Each candidate is permitted to bring 2 pages of blank paper or lined paper and 2 writing utensils, such as pens and/or pencils, to each day of the exam, as the ability to jot down notes on scrap paper can facilitate cognitive processing, reduce memory load, and support accessibility. However, candidates who opt to use scrap paper will be required to destroy that paper in front of the proctor at the end of the exam. The electronic notepad is still available in the exam aid section of the platform for those who wish to take notes through the platform. I also wanted to point out that smart glasses, so any kind of eyeglasses that have any kind of connectivity or electronic access, are not permitted for this examination. So the proctors will do a check to make sure that all glasses are what I'll refer to as analog glasses, meaning they cannot connect to anything. They cannot record anything because that would be a security issue. Multiple monitors. Candidates can only use one monitor during the exam, but may choose which monitor they use if they have multiple monitors. So I have two monitors in use right now. I have my laptop, which is connected to a bigger monitor. If I am able to set up my exam so that I only use the large monitor and the laptop is closed, then that is allowed, but only one monitor can be used during the exam. Bathroom breaks. Time is not added back for bathroom breaks, but they are permitted. The exam is only paused or time is only added back for those approved for accommodations. When a candidate leaves the testing area for a bathroom break, proctors will perform another security check when the candidate re-enters the testing area. Candidates who are absent from the testing area for an extended period of time, for example, longer than a couple of minutes, or who take frequent breaks will be flagged for exam security. If exam security issues are detected, the candidate's examination attempt may be invalidated and further action may be taken. Technical issues. In the event of any technical issues, candidates must get the proctor's attention. This will allow the candidate to communicate with a proctor who will then assist them. Time will only be added back or the exam is only paused if the issue was beyond the candidate's control.
Thank you, Jen. You have a maximum of 4 hours to complete your examination. All exams will be submitted 4 hours after you have started your exam. It is your responsibility to ensure that your environment is adequate for testing. The examination is being displayed in the language of choice you selected on your registration form. Please answer in the official language of your choice. English or French. I'm going to go off script, but Jen, can you confirm that if someone wants to write both in French and in English, it's possible?
That is permitted. What
Yeah.
I would suggest that you do, though, is if you decide to do that, then in your exit survey, when you finish your exam, please just write a note or a comment in one of the response boxes so that when we are assigning the exams for marking, we make sure that a bilingual exam advisory group member is assigned to that exam for the marking process.
Thank you, Jen. Computer problems, internet-related difficulties and connectivity issues, including problems resulting from a power outage, should be directed to the live proctor during the exam. As this is an individual examination, you're strictly forbidden from consulting any other individuals or materials. Any time missed due to late start, which was not attributed to a technology issue, will be deducted from the total examination time. Read the questions carefully, and a PDF for the French version of the exam has been included as an exam aid in the platform. You can review the French questions using that PDF if needed throughout the exam. Upon submission of the exam, you will be presented with a link to an optional survey that asks about any issues you may have experienced during the exam. To complete the survey, click on Survey on the submission page. A new window will open with the survey questions. Please complete the survey and click Submit. Once the survey has been submitted, close the Survey tab and then click on Close on the exam submission page. Note that once your exam has been submitted and you're presented with the survey page, you will not be able to go back into the exam. The system will ask you to confirm your wish to submit your exam before the submission is made.
Okay, let's take a look at the exam platform. Once you have connected with the proctor and been checked in, you'll receive the link to the exam. you set your language of preference and will enter your login credentials. So after we've done the PowerPoint part of the presentation, I'll actually bring up the sample exams that are on our website, and we can go through a dry run of the exam platform, and I can show you how this is used in real time. I'm just giving you some screenshots right now. So you'll see the exams on the dashboard, and you'll click on Start Test to begin the exam. This is actually also where the exit survey will be listed. So previously, the exit survey was linked on the submission page, but we've moved it into its own standalone piece. So once you've submitted your exam, you'll be brought back to the dashboard, and that's when you can launch the post-exam exit survey and complete that. So you'll see the exams on the dashboard, and you'll click on Start Test to begin the exam. You'll then be presented with the instructions and the candidate agreement, and you'll be required to scroll down through the candidate agreement and click on Accept in order to actually launch the exam. Now, all of the instructions and the candidate agreement are on our website on the practice exams, so you can read through those ahead of the exam and familiarize yourself with them as much as possible before the exam days. Because once you have clicked on Accept, you can't return to the instructions or the candidate agreement page. It's really important to know that you have different options for navigating through the questions on the platform. You can use the previous and next buttons. You can click on the question numbers at the bottom of the screen, or you can navigate to attempted, incomplete, or flagged questions using the question review function. That being said, we strongly recommend that candidates confirm that all questions have been answered before they submit the examination. Questions that are blue have been answered. Questions that are green have not yet been answered. I encourage you to check the question review section at the bottom right corner to ensure that you have answered all of the questions before submitting your exam. Now, this was a lot more important when you were doing the knowledge exams, because there was 135 questions on that exam, and it's easy to potentially miss one. For the skills exams on component A, there's only 11 questions, and component B, there's only 14 questions, and the little box will turn blue even if you type anything into the answer box. So now that you have 4 hours for the exam each day, I would strongly recommend actually going through each of your response boxes rather than just checking the color of the boxes at the bottom to make sure that that is the answer that you wanted to submit for that particular question, not just that you've completed it, because, you know, just writing a letter or a punctuation mark or something into a response box will cause the color to turn from green to blue. So it's actually important to go through each of your responses to make sure that you have answered the question fully and you're happy with your response before you proceed. Here is a sample view, and this was taken from the sample exam that's on the website. So a lot of questions that have significant background materials or lengthy background materials are displayed as a side view question. And so the background materials or the fact pattern is visible on the left side of the screen, and then any associated questions for that fact pattern are located on the right side of the screen, and with the response boxes there. So you can see this is one of the sample views. You'll see that type of question format on the platform. And another type of question format is just a single page, so it's not a split screen view. The top portion of the screen will show you the background information and the question, and then the response box will be underneath that. Some features that you should be testing during the live proctor check-in that are available to you on the platform are the highlight and strike through features. So what you would do is you select the text using your mouse that you want to highlight or strike through, and then click on either highlight or strike through, and that functionality will then appear on your screen. You can also remove highlight and strike through by selecting that text again, and then there's an option to remove the highlight or remove the strike through. There are also the exam aids on the right side of the screen. So you'll see there's a little tab called exam aids, and that's where you will find the electronic notepad. You'll also find the Trademark Act and trademark regulations, and you will find the PDFs of the exams on the exam aids. So we'll actually have the English version and the French version of the exam, PDF versions of that exam in the exam aids section. Font size and screen zoom are important because candidates with smaller monitors might find that some text might be cut off on the exam platform. You have the ability to increase or decrease the font size by clicking on font plus or font minus to change the size of the text. You can also zoom in or out on the exam window screen using Control plus or Control minus on a PC, and I think on a Mac it would be Command plus or Command minus to zoom in or out on the screen. And then finally, you can also review the question in the exam aid PDF. So there's 3 different options that are available in case, for whatever reason, your monitor size makes it so that some of the question content might be cut off. You are able to increase or decrease the font size, zoom in or out, or as a last case scenario, use the exam aid PDF to view the full question. So exam aids, candidates can navigate to specific sections of the Trademarks Act and regulations by opening the table of contents and then clicking on the section that they want to see. The table of contents is clickable. In previous iterations of the secure browser, there was a magnifying glass feature that allowed for keyword searches throughout the exam aids and the platform. Unfortunately, that functionality is no longer available on the platform. And so this is a way where you can jump to specific sections of the Act and the regulations by going through the exam aids and clicking on the table of contents. Now, the specific versions of the Act and the regulations that will be on the platform are linked in the candidate guide for this year's examination. So if you want to refamiliarize yourself with those and the sections that are being used for this iteration of the exam, then you can review those links in the candidate guide. In terms of troubleshooting, there's a couple of different possibilities that might happen, technical issues that might occur during an exam. So a power outage is a sudden loss of electricity that interrupts the exam delivery or causes a test taker's device to shut down. If a candidate loses power and the device shuts down, you need to first and foremost remain calm. If the computer is off, then the exam timer should be paused. The candidate should get the proctor's attention to let them know what has happened, and then the proctor will guide them on what to do next. Monitor EDU will escalate issues like this to CPATA and will talk about potential backup locations or other options if the power is not restored right away. And Tifan is going to go through how to get the proctor's attention on the next slide. Network connectivity issues. These can result from problems with internet connectivity that prevent test takers from accessing the exam platform or cause the exam to freeze or disconnect. If a candidate has internet connectivity issues, they will need to let the proctor know right away. The proctor will then ask the candidate to restart their computer. While this is happening, if the candidate has access to the internet router or modem, they might need to restart that as well. If the issue does not resolve itself, Monitor EDU will escalate again to CPATA and will talk about backup locations or options if the issue persists. Now, a little point of clarification here. Obviously, if you're writing at home, then you have access to your own modem, your own router, and those types of things can be resolved by yourself. However, if you're writing at a work location, which could come with its own issues in terms of network accessibility, you might want to have whatever IT provider you use at your work location on call, both when you're starting the exam and then throughout the exam, in case you run into any of these types of issues. They can help you and Monitor EDU can help you. So it'll be kind of like a group effort to resolve the issues, because a lot of times employees don't have access to that back-end support area that you might need to have access to if something like that goes awry in your office location. Other technical issues or software malfunction with the platform. Issues with the exam software, such as errors, bugs, incompatibilities, or crashes that interfere with exam delivery or prevent test takers from progressing through the exam, might occur. If a candidate experiences any of these issues, again, you need to contact the proctor right away for troubleshooting assistance. Remember, this is very, very important. If you experience any issues, you need to get the proctor's attention in order for us to troubleshoot them with you. We have received in the past exit survey submissions from people who explain all of the technical issues they experienced during the exam. And then when we go back to Monitor EDU, because they take very, very detailed notes of the proctoring session for every candidate, and we have the recordings, there's no record of the candidate actually asking for any help or notifying the proctor that there were any issues. So if you do experience any issues, then you do need to get the proctor's attention. And now Tifan will explain how to do that.
Thank you, Jen. If you need the proctor at all during an exam, please say your name and raise your hand and wait for the proctor to connect back through audio with you. Proctors can manage more than one test taker at the same time. So if it takes them a minute to respond, it could be that they are assisting another test taker. If they do not respond, please pick up your phone and wave at the camera or hold your phone so they can see that you need something. Please do not disconnect from the video chat without talking to the proctor first.
Okay, now I'd like to turn our attention to results and scoring. There's no single method to determine a defensible pass mark for all tests or purposes. Different methods are suited to different circumstances. As a licensing body, CPATA needed to select an approach to standard setting based on the purpose of the examinations, which is to assess entry-level competencies, as well as how closely the method aligned with assessment goals. For a high-stakes licensing examination, in other words, a test with important consequences, the selected standard setting approach should relate to the purpose of the exam, be appropriate to the level of complexity of the competencies being assessed by the exam, be appropriate to the specific format of the exam, be supported by scholarly research, and should reflect the availability of resources. In 2023, the Registration Committee approved the methodologies which are used on the new exams to determine the pass marks. For the skills examination, they approved the borderline regression method. The borderline regression method allows the pass mark to be set using test performance from all test takers, and is particularly suited to small-scale assessments because it uses data from all examinees in the derivation of a cut score. Consistent with other high-stakes exams, a minimum standard will be determined through the borderline regression standard setting process. This involves the exam advisory group, who are practicing trademark agents. The exam advisory group evaluates each test taker using a standardized marking guide and then provides an overall impression of the test taker's ability using a rating scale. The pass mark is based on the relationship between the test scores and the overall impression ratings of the test taker's performance. Candidates who demonstrate competency on this exam will not receive a performance report. The result of competency demonstrated means that performance on the exam met or exceeded the minimum standard, showing a general understanding of the skills associated with trademark practice, and that subject to meeting other requirements, the candidate is eligible to apply for a Class 1 license. Candidates who do not yet demonstrate competency will receive a performance report, which outlines the candidate's performance. The result, competency not yet demonstrated, means that performance on the exam did not meet the minimum standard. The candidate did not yet prove a sufficient understanding of the general skills associated with trademark agent practice. the candidate may have gaps in their understanding of key skills. And this result suggests that the candidate needs further preparation and study before reattempting the trademark agent skills exam or engaging in trademark agent practice. The performance report also includes an overall performance descriptor that compares the candidate's performance to the minimum standard. This information, along with measurement variability data, informs an estimate of how close the candidate's performance was to the passing standard. Candidates who receive an overall result of competency not yet demonstrated would receive a corresponding performance descriptor of either approaches the standard or below the standard. Approaches the standard means that the candidate's performance on the exam was close to the passing standard, showing some potential. However, improvement is needed to meet the standard. Below the standard means the candidate's performance was below the passing standard and improvement is needed. Finally, the performance report lists the skills areas tested on the exam, as well as the percentage of marks on the exam related to each area. Skills areas with more marks have a greater effect on your overall performance. The performance details show whether your performance in each area meets or is, which means is equal to or exceeds, or is below a minimal threshold set for each area. The area level thresholds will be set using data from the standard setting process. It's important to keep in mind, though, that only the total score determines the result. There is no separate pass mark for each skills area. Stronger performance in one area can offset weaker performance in another area. Keep in mind that the area level results are based on fewer questions than the overall result, making them less reliable for predicting future performance. For this reason, the meets or below insights should only be used to help candidates better self-assess their skills in these areas, not as a definitive statement of their ability. Now, we understand that test takers may be used to seeing specific scores on exams, and that these scores provide a tangible measure of performance. However, the primary purpose of our qualifying exams is not to rank order test takers or precisely measure their depth of knowledge or skill, but rather to determine whether a test taker has achieved a certain level of competence. The important question is not how much better did one person do as compared to another, but has this particular person met the minimum level of competence required to practice safely and effectively? Think of the licensing process in terms of a series of hurdles. The goal of completing each hurdle isn't necessarily about how much faster one person is than another. The primary objective is to determine whether each person can successfully complete each hurdle. A person who clears the hurdles by 1 inch is just as successful in this context as a person who clears them by a foot. In a similar vein, our qualifying exams work more like a series of hurdles rather than a race against other competitors. As such, the score isn't as meaningful as the overall decision of competency demonstrated or competency not yet demonstrated. You can also think of a pass mark as analogous to the height requirement for an amusement park ride. When you approach a ride, there's usually a sign indicating that someone has to be a certain height to ride that ride. The point of this measure isn't to see who the tallest person is, but is to ensure that everyone on the ride meets the minimum height for safety reasons. Similarly, our exam isn't about who achieves the highest score, but whether each candidate has reached the necessary height or level of competence to practice the profession safely and effectively. In addition, focusing on the result rather than the numeric score may also reduce unhelpful competition amongst test takers, which can also lessen test-related stress. Our goal is to ensure that each licensed individual is qualified and competent. We have chosen this method of reporting for our exams because we believe this method best serves that purpose. This approach focuses on the goal of achieving general proficiency rather than encouraging test takers to chase after a high score. Finally, you might be wondering if you can challenge your result. The short answer is no, you cannot. The long answer is the process used to create, administer, and score the exams employed psychometric best practices at every stage to ensure it is valid, reliable, defensible, and fair. For development, practicing trademark agents were recruited to develop the exam forms in accordance with approved test specifications. They were required to adhere to a development guide, which outlined fundamentals, recommended practices specific to developing constructed response and performance-based questions, and writing conventions that apply to all items of various types. After the exam forms were developed, they underwent a rigorous review process to ensure that the questions were appropriate and that the answer key was correct. This included pilot testing, where independent subject matter experts, or in other words, agents that were not involved with development, actually took the exam and reviewed it for alignment to the test specifications, meaning whether the exam focused on must-know aspects of core concepts, context, whether the contextual information respected and represented a diversity of contexts so that candidates from a wide range of populations were able to understand the content, constructed response best practices, whether facts and materials maintained expected length, cognitive complexity, and difficulty, questions and materials were as short as possible while supplying enough information, questions were clear, free from tricks, they were plausible and realistic. Time, whether test takers can complete the exam in a 3-hour time frame. So even though we are giving you 4 hours every day to write the exam was developed to be able to be completed within a 3-hour time frame. So we didn't make it longer and we didn't make it harder. We just gave you more time to finish it. And overall writing, making sure it is error-free, simple, clear, concise, consistent, logical, and inclusive. After that review, it goes under a psychometric review, where someone who's an expert in defensible assessment is involved in the development of the exam form and the key to confirm that they adhere to defensible, valid, and reliable practices. Then the exams undergo translation with certified translators and a translation review, where bilingual practicing agents from the exam advisory groups review the translation to ensure that the forms are equivalent in English and French and mean the same thing in each language. The exam is then piloted in French to make sure that if an agent who is bilingual takes the French version of the exam, that there aren't any issues with the translation or the meaning. We've also implemented several procedures for marking. Before marking begins, each exam advisory group member receives training from an expert in defensible assessment and takes part in specific training for the part of the exam that they are marking. They also complete practice exercises known as calibration exercises to ensure consistency in scoring between candidates. The exams are then marked using detailed scoring keys, which are updated as needed during the marking process to keep consistent and accurate. 2 independent markers score each exam submission. Each marker does this independently, recording their own scores. Then the marking pairs discuss discrepant marks at the question level. After discussing, they agree on final scores for each question or set of marks. Before finalizing scores, each exam is checked for errors such as missing scores, incomplete rating scales, or any data entry mistakes. Any errors are corrected and reported to the relevant exam advisory group. After marking is when we determine the pass mark using the standard setting process that I described earlier. Once a pass mark is calculated, we identify the borderline cases. Borderline cases are then reviewed by exam advisory group members who were not involved in the initial marking. These reviewers do not see the original scores at first to avoid bias and ensure a fresh perspective. Once the initial borderline review is done, the reviewers receive the original notes and scores without knowing who made them. This information helps ensure that important perspectives were not overlooked, helps maintain consistency in scoring, and ensures the review aligns with exam standards. Anonymizing the notes and scores helps prevent bias and ensures fairness. The reviewer's mark is then averaged with the original mark, giving both equal weight. This balance combines the benefits of collaborative marking with independent assessment of the reviewer. In exceptional cases, such as where there is a significant difference between scores, we may modify or enhance this review process to maintain fairness. Finally, the registration committee approves the pass mark, and the results are finalized using that information. Any additional borderline cases identified after the pass mark is approved are reviewed according to the described process. The results file is then checked for accuracy before creating the performance reports. That all being said, candidates are not permitted to access or review their exam materials after the exam has been administered, as this process protects the security and integrity of the exam. As described, to address any concerns about the change in process from the legacy exams, we've implemented many checks and controls to verify the accuracy of the skills exams results before they are provided to candidates. The borderline case review process happens automatically and at no additional cost to the candidate. This streamlined process for scoring and borderline case review preemptively addresses any concerns about the accuracy of the results and removes the stress and financial impact of the recorrection process from candidates, as each recorrection request for a component of the skills exam would cost $500 plus taxes. Actually, now it would be more than that because of the cost of living increase, or not cost of living increase, but the inflationary increase that occurs during every annual review of the fees. The skills exams are administered once per year in the fall. All agents in training are permitted to attempt the skills exam up to 2 times before remedial training and education is required. Agents in training who do not attempt the skills exam within 2 years after they complete their training will be required to provide and complete a remedial training and education plan before being permitted to attempt the exam. Similarly, agents in training who do not yet demonstrate competency on the exam after 2 attempts are required to provide and complete the remedial training and education plan to reestablish their eligibility for the exam. And finally, agents in training who attempted the skills exam and then request a subsequent delay in writing a future administration of the exam for a reason beyond their control, and then do not attempt it again within a period of 2 years, are also required to complete a remedial training and education plan. CPATA uses various methods to detect and address issues and irregularities. At the end of each exam administration, we solicit feedback from test takers about extenuating circumstances that they believe materially impaired their exam performance. Additionally, we actively seek and analyze information from test takers, exam administrators, and experts to identify irregularities in any exam administration, including misconduct. In the case of extenuating circumstances or irregularities, we reserve the right to withhold results, to nullify or invalidate an exam submission, or to subject any exam or part thereof to further review, and take other action, including disciplinary action if appropriate, in order to preserve the integrity of the licensing process. There are resources available on our website to assist candidates in preparing for the skills exam. This includes the candidate guides, the setup guides, what to study, the test specifications, and the sample exams. And this year we've also added a tips sheet that was actually drafted by the exam advisory group members and has been posted on the website. So before we start taking questions and before I show the website, I will let Tifan go through the contact slide.
Thank you, Jen. So if you have any questions regarding Monitor EDU and how the platform works and how how the live proctor check-in is gonna go, you can reach out to them. So you have the email here, and you can also speak to an agent. And when you contact them, please indicate your name, your first name, last name, and CPATA number, because it happened that some year that people would contact them without giving them any information, so they wouldn't know what to do. So make sure you tell them who you are. If you do have any other questions, any issues, we're here to help you. So our email, you know the email. And please do not contact us using our personal email so that to avoid double work and to avoid any delay in responding. So our colleague Emily also is there, has also access to this inbox. So feel free to reach out to any of us at any time, and we'll do our best to help you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tifan. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment, and I'm going to share the website screen just so that I can go through some of the website pieces that I was talking about. Okay, so we should have visibility onto the website now, and I apologize, I'm going to be looking at my second screen for navigation. So here I have the English on the left side and the French on the right side. You can access this by going Agents and Training, Trademark Agent Qualifying Exams, and then the Preparation site. Same with on the French side, the Preparation site. So the first part of the page includes the candidate guides. So we have the knowledge exam guide, which you do not have to worry about anymore because you've passed the knowledge exam. Congratulations. This is the trademark agent skills exam guide that we are referring to. And this is where we have the links to the act and the regulations that will be used on the exam aid section of the platform. Just waiting for the English side to load. There we go. Okay, so here you will see the links to the Trademark Act and the trademark regulations. So these were the versions that were used to develop the exam, and these were the versions that are posted on the exam platform. So here you can see all of the details in the candidate guides here. All right, so that's the candidate guide. Then we have the examinations and instructions protocol, another PDF document. And this document was put together by Monitor EDU and Paradigm. And it goes through step by step what you need to do on the live proctor check-in days, as well as on the actual exam days. Just scroll up to the top here. So again, prior to the live check-in and exam day, it has a list of steps that you need to follow. This is the same instruction and exam protocol guide that you used for the knowledge exam. The only difference is the link to the secure browser. So the secure browser has changed since the last exam administration. It's very important that you uninstall the old version and you install the newest version that is linked here. I know that the link references 2023, but it is the most current link for the exam platform. I have confirmed this with Paradigm. So that is the instructions and protocol guide. Down here, the tips for candidates. This was the new document that was uploaded this year. And we asked the exam advisory group members to come up with a list of tips that are things that they see happening during the previous administrations, which might be helpful for candidates to know ahead of time. So for example, read each question carefully, tailor your answer to the specific questions or instructions provided. Ensure your response addresses all parts of the question, including any sub-questions. Read all of the sub-questions first before answering to avoid duplicating responses, etc., etc. So if you haven't had a chance to look at the tips for candidates, then I strongly recommend that you take a look at that sheet. Then if you scroll down a little further, we have our what to study sections. Here we have the test specifications linked here, and these are the new versions that include reference to the 4 hours per day. The other parts of the skills exams have not changed. So we're still testing content 25%, 25%, 25%, 25% for each of the skills areas. I'll open up this document here, which is kind of a amalgamation of the technical competency profiles and the test specifications. So this document provides you with all of the performance criteria. Make this smaller on the English side so you can see all of the performance criteria that is testing registrability. So when we say we're testing registrability and strategy in component A, these are all of the different types of things that you might be asked to do on that component. And that makes up, 25% each of that exam. Same, if you scroll down, you'll see the sections for prosecution and opposition in section 45. So when you're preparing for the exam, whether you have a supervisor or not, you would practice analyzing a trademark file history. You would practice responding to an office action, because those are the types of tasks that we would be asking you to do on the skills examination. So this is a handy little sheet to help you kind of prepare for the exam and set up some sample questions or some practice exercises for you to do. Scrolling down further on the preparation page, we've gone through the knowledge exam already, so we don't have to do that again, but there is a section for the skills exams as well. So the first set of links are all of just the PDFs of the sample exams. So you have the PDF of component A, component B, and then the answer keys, which are the exemplar responses for those questions. Underneath that are the links to the exam platform that were recently updated. So hopefully they work. And I'm only going to click one at a time, because when I do them both at the same time, sometimes they cancel each other out and they don't work. So I'll click on the French one in just a second. But I've clicked on the English one, and these are the exam instructions. So you can take a look through. This is the same exam instruction that you'll see on exam day. Scroll down, you'll see this is the candidate agreement as well. You scroll down all the way to the bottom, you click on accept and then start. And then I'll just maximize this page so I can show you fully, and then I'll show you on the French side. But there's 3 sample questions that are on the exam platform, so you can have some practice on how to use the various pieces of functionality. Top right-hand corner, you'll see this is the timer that we have, so it counts down from 4 hours. Everyone has 4 hours unless you have an approved accommodation for each component. This is the question navigation down here. So if I click on question 2, it'll jump to that. If I click on question 3, it'll jump to that. If I want to highlight this particular paragraph, I select the text and click on highlight, and select the text and remove the highlight. Can also strike through information. So if I'm reading a bunch of fact patterns and I think, okay, this isn't important for me to pay attention to, I can strike that through, and then you can remove that as well. To type into a response box, you have to click in the top left-hand corner, and you can start typing into this. This is a test. You can also use some of the text formatting, so you can bold something, italicize something, underline something, make bullet points. You can use strike through, subscript, superscript, change styles, add a table, add a symbol, all of those different types of things. Down here in the bottom left is where you have the font size increase section. So you can make the size bigger. You can make it really, really big if you wanted to. I'll make it back to medium. And then if I do Control plus, it increases the zoom. If I do it again, it makes it even bigger. If I make it smaller, then you'll see that it zooms back out. So that's how you use those pieces of functionality. The question review button on the bottom right shows you how many questions you've attempted, which means how many questions you've put a response into, how many are incomplete, so how many you have not responded to yet. If I go and bookmark a question, then it will show as flagged. So you can navigate to different types of questions based on those categories as well. On the right-hand side, you will see the exam aids. So I've just launched that. And you can see the Trademarks Act has opened. If I scroll down into the table of contents, I can click on a section and it will jump down to that section. You can see the regulations are there. We also have the French PDF of the exam and the English PDF of the exam as well. So that is how and if you click on submit, then it will give you a warning message to make sure that you want to submit your exam. You click no, then it'll go back to the exam and you can keep going. Or if you click on yes, then it will submit your exam. So that was the English version. I'll just quickly open the French version as well so that everyone can see it looks exactly the same, only with the French text. And I will zoom back in so that we can see it a little bit better. But it's the same type of functionality. You can highlight, you can strike through, you type into the response box. The exam aids are also here as well. Scroll down and you can click on a section. It'll jump down to that section for you. The counter is up in the top right corner. You can review the questions. You can bookmark a question. Same with increasing the font size or decreasing the font size and submitting the exam. So if you click cancel, then you go back.
Jen, can you show the exam aids that are available for them, for the candidates?
Yes, so the exam aids are the Trademark Act and the trademark regulations on component A and includes the NICE classification on component B.
Okay,
so
we
this
just
is
had a
the
question
exam
about
aids.
that.
You can access this even right now during the presentation on the website. So that's what it'll look like on your exam days. All right. So scrolling down just a little further, this is where you've signed up for the orientation session. And this is where we will put the slides and the recordings for today's session as well. So in the next couple of days, this section will be updated to remove the registration link, and it will be updated with a PDF of the slides and the recordings from today's session. So I'm going to stop sharing. That's all I wanted to show you on the website. And I see that we have some questions. So if we've already answered some questions, then I'm not going to go through them again. Okay, so we've already answered that.
Is CPATA offering anywhere to write in person?
No, so this is in a remotely proctored exam. You are responsible for finding your own writing location. We strongly recommend that you write in your in a home environment if possible, just because, as I said, sometimes there are network firewalls and things like that that are put in place where people work that you might not have access to change. So if you're thinking of writing in your work environment, then you should definitely be going through that live proctor check-in the week of August 31st, just to make sure that everything is going to be working properly when you're writing on exam day. So all rings, all jewelry need to be removed during the exam. The scrap paper, yes, you're allowed to use pens or pencils. So you're allowed 2 pieces of scrap paper, either blank or lined, and 2 writing utensils, either pens or pencils or 1 of each. For the screen, for the double screen, it needs to actually be closed if you're using a laptop. So you can have, if you have a laptop, an extra monitor setup, and you're using the bigger monitor, then the laptop actually has to be closed so that there isn't anything available for candidates to see or use, and there's no kind of camera associated with that. We don't have a recommended minimum screen size for the testing software. You can contact Monitor EDU and Paradigm to see if they have any recommendations for you, but we haven't set a minimum screen size. I can tell you though, the smaller the screen size you use, the more likely you might have some text cut off when the exam is displayed for you. So then that is really where you would have to use the font increase or decrease or the zoom in or zoom out on the screen in order to make sure that you can see the entire question and all of the background materials. Okay, so let me just read through this question. In terms of what information you should have quote unquote memorized and what you shouldn't have memorized, I would say that if there are, very important concepts that are core things that everyone should know, then that should be something that you try to keep in mind while you're doing your preparation. You don't have to have obviously the act or the regulations or even the NEASE classification memorized, because that isn't something that, like, those are exam aids that are provided to you in the actual exam platform. My understanding and what the instructions were to the exam advisory group members was that if a candidate needs a piece of information, then it should be provided to them as part of the background and reference materials. However, if there are really prominent things or core concepts, as I'll call them, then you should have practiced that enough to have that information kind of in the back of your mind when you're doing the exam. The sample exams that are posted on the website, where there only should be treated as examples and background materials. So it might not be exactly a representative example of the exact thing that you're going to see on the actual exam. Is the assessment quantitative and just delivered to the candidates qualitatively, or is the assessment itself also qualitative? I'm not exactly sure I understand what that question means. So whoever asked that, if you could clarify what you mean by that, then that would be helpful. Okay. So let me just see here. Yes, so the exam platform, the secure browser has changed since the knowledge exam. So you make sure that you need to uninstall the previous version of the exam and then exam software, and then install the version that is linked in the candidate instruction and protocol guide. So the NEASE classes can be found in the exam aids on the platform. I believe they were linked in the candidate guide as well. I have to check and see to make sure that that version of the candidate guide does have the NEASE classes. If it doesn't, then we'll post another link on the website that has the NEASE classes document. But essentially, it's just the class numbers and then the description of the classes which are found. Copy and paste functionality is not in use for this examination because it is not required, so we don't have that availability for this examination. Okay, next question has to do with bullet points or point form. So if a question accepts point form, then we say in the question point form responses are acceptable. If we don't want a candidate to use point form, we want a long response, long answer or paragraph style response, then it will be indicated as such in the exam question. But generally speaking, most of the questions indicate that point form is acceptable. Are we allowed to use a wired mouse connected to a laptop? Yes, that is absolutely okay to do. Note copy and paste is not available for this examination. However, as far as my understanding goes, you wouldn't need to copy and paste anything from the Act or the regulations. The Act and the regulations are provided so that you can look up, specific sections and things like that. But it wouldn't be required for you to copy and paste any information from the exam aids. In terms of expected to get the results, the marking process, the borderline regression analysis, and the registration committee decision-making process are fairly lengthy. So we are anticipating that the results will be released in mid-January 2027.
I also encourage them to check the results webpage that we have.
Yes, we do have a results webpage on the website. So if you would like more information about FAQs and why some information is visible and not all information is visible on the performance reports, then you can go through those FAQs. So the exam board members, which are also the borderline review markers, they actually award marks based on an answer key. And then the borderline regression analysis is completed to identify the cut score for the entire exam. And that is the score that is used to determine if a candidate meets the competencies or competency is not yet demonstrated. Unfortunately, because the platform providing software is not owned by CPATA, we don't have control over the functionality that is removed or when that happens. So we didn't have any say in that decision. It was something that happened at the platform provider level, and it's not something that we were able to add back for this year. Also, it wasn't a Control F functionality that was previously available for searching the exam aids. It was a magnifying glass. I think that caused additional confusion. Is it required to cite case law in our responses? Again, I can't give away any exam material information. However, if it is identified in performance criteria as something that you should be knowing, or something that is really a core concept for you to know, then I would say it should be part of your preparation. I do know that particularly citing case law it seems to be more on the knowledge exam side than it does on the skills exam side. So it is unlikely that you will have to, have tons of cases memorized for this. But again, if it is a core concept, a core case, then have that be part of your preparation in terms of making sure that you understand, the principle that was at play for that particular case. We've already gone through the search functionality, so you can use the table of contents to search the exam aids. A keyword search is not available on the platform. No, the questions are not you can't do copy and paste on the platform for the trademark skills exam. I think I've gone through the rapid fire questions that have been coming up. I'm still waiting to hear back from the person that asked about qualitative versus quantitative. So if you do have that additional
I think he did
clarification.
at 3:12 p.m. He said clarification. Are the reviewers awarding actual marks, or is it more ensuring the
Oh, okay. If that's what that meant, then
Yeah, I think so.
I've
I
already
think from my
answered that.
understanding, that was the clarification.
Yeah. Okay, regarding the fact patterns on the test, are we expected to explicitly state any assumptions we make or that may be made to require an answer to the question? You shouldn't be making any assumptions. The fact pattern should provide you with the information that you need in order to answer the question. I'm pretty sure that yes, actually, in the tips for candidates, it says rely on the information provided in the question and reconsider your approach if you find yourself assuming missed facts. So you should not be assuming missed facts. Okay, I will give everybody another minute just in case they have any additional questions that they wanted to ask during the live session. If you come up with a question afterwards that you didn't think of during today's orientation, feel free to reach out to the registration team at CPATA and we will do our best to get an answer for you. Oh, there's another one. Do we need to know the specific government fee amounts? No, you do not need to know any specific fee amounts. You could just indicate the prescribed fee or refer to the fee that is required there, but you don't have to have that information available for the examination. Like, for example, if a fee is required for a specific action, then you should know that a fee is required, but you wouldn't be expected to know what the amount was. Okay, so as we settle down into the end of the webinar, I'll take a few minutes just to thank my co-presenter, Tiffen. Thank you very much, as always. Thank you to the CPATA staff as well, Dana and Andres, and our wonderful interpreters. So thank you all very much. And thank you to the participants for attending today's webinar and asking really great questions. Yes, I was just going to say the exam or the webinar has been recorded and it will be posted on the website within the next couple of days. It's also going to be linked in the candidate confirmation that we send out on Friday. So don't be alarmed that you don't have a candidate ID yet. We will be sending these confirmations of registration on Friday, and the slides and the recording will be linked there as well. If you haven't had a chance to go through all of the materials that I showed during the webinar, then I strongly recommend that you do that even before the live proctor check-in week. If you're unable to participate during the live proctor check-in week and you need an alternative time, then please contact registration and we will arrange for you to be able to do that, because it's really important that you do that live proctor check-in before the exam days so you can iron out any potential issues with either your room, your technology, your computer, any of those things. It's really important and it's less stressful for you on exam days when you go through that process ahead of time.
And also, if I may, make sure you give us the correct email address. Sometimes some candidates contact us because they have not received any documentation from us, and it's because we've been using their work or their personal email, and they no longer have access, or they just forget to check it. So before sending us an email explaining, like telling us I have not received anything or any confirmation, please make sure you check all of your email addresses.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate your time this afternoon and good luck on the exam. And let us know if you need anything. We are here to help you.
Thank
Okay,
you very much.
have a great
Good
afternoon. Bye,
luck. Bonne
everybody.
chance.